It's now going live. I'll share. Okay, I think we are now live. Let me just check. Make sure that everything is okay. Yeah, we are live. So first of all, to the ones watching from home or from whatever you are, we apologize for this delay, but we had some technical difficulties and we hope that they will not happen anymore. We have sorted that out. And I'll now pass on the floor to Nuno Coelho, who is the moderator from today's session from Ciclo de Conversas, Design and Multimedia. Nuno, please, over to you.
Hey, hello everyone, and Susanna and Kai, thank you for being with us. So Ciclo de Conversas Design and Multimedia is a series of talks held every year in the scope of the bachelor and master's degree in Design and Multimedia from the University of Coimbra. So every year we invite different designers to share their work and their experience with our students and all the viewers that follow us from home. So thank you once again, Kai and Susanna, for being with us. So let me introduce you and I'll give you the floor to you. So Atelier Carvalho Bernal is a design studio based in Porto, in Portugal, and their office was originally established in 2005 in The Hague, in the Netherlands. They mainly work for the culture and publishing fields, both locally and internationally, and they value long-term relationships where commissioners become collaborators or even accomplices. Atelier Carvalho Bernal maintain a flexible network of professionals who work with them whenever the job requires: researchers, editors, curators, photographers, illustrators, and even programmers. So they manage their time between commissioned projects, teaching, and self-initiated projects. So without any further delay, I'll give the floor to you, Susanna and Kai. Thank you once again, and see you in a bit.
Hi, good evening. Thank you very much, João and Nuno and everybody involved for having us here. We're very happy that this year we can manage to give a talk. And let me just click two buttons and then we are in our presentation. There you go. Right, like Nuno already explained, this is Susanna, my name is Kai. We started our practice around 2005 or so in the Netherlands, and since summer 21, so almost 2 years, we've now been in Porto. We like it a lot. We are graphic designers. We make publication work for institutions and for museums and for artists and for publishers, and we make interaction and web design work for a slightly wider circle of clients. And apart from that, we're also typeface designers. We make fonts both for our own use and I guess for other people to use. Normally we come up with very good titles for our lectures. Not today. But what we want to talk about is sort of the tools that we use and how they influences the processes of our designs. So technology not for the sake of it and not to do the design for us, or like we don't really make a lot of design that looks very techy, but only to make possible the things that we want to design. We do occasionally use a bit of interesting technology, but not always. This is not the only way that we design, and we are very careful what kind of tools we use for what and sometimes our processes are very manual or even analog.
Yeah, so the first project we will like to talk about is the Octavo Publicaties, where we designed the main series for the publishing house in Amsterdam. We were approached by the publisher Solange de Boer in 2009, and we worked with her, and we still keep on working. We have now designed 22 titles, and we work in close dialogue with her because we share the same love for books. So from the outset, like the brief was to make honest publications from our side.
And from her side too.
And from our side too. She was very invested in making good publications that were functional. So objects that you use every day, but also durable and were affordable so that even students could buy it. And also high quality editions, not only the translations, but also in terms of production and typography. Books that open well, so that function well, and paper that is low bulk and archive grade. What this means for us is exactly what you see in this image. Like both books have sensible the same amount of pages. One has bulk paper with a lot of air. Publishers like to do that because they occupy a lot of shelf space, makes it worth your while the money, but actually it's exactly the same amount of pages. And we were more interested in having books that were easier to carry around and were good quality and didn't take too much space. But so how did we achieve this? Because production is expensive, and we had to deal a little bit with the economy of making the books for a small readership. The Netherlands is a small country, and there are not many Dutch-speaking people. There's the Netherlands and Belgium. So how did we balance this with the cost of production and how we could best use the budget we had? We employed automation to the greater good. So for the execution, not for the design. The part that was the most challenging and interesting part of the project for us was the series concept and design. And we started by looking at a lot of paperback collections, all the new at the time. This was in 2009, as you saw. We were very intrigued how, like, barely any series explained anything about the relationship to the other books in the series. They were similar, formally similar, but there was no relationship. Why does this title look like this and that title look like this other way? So, and we thought if we design a series, we want to try and show the relationships between the titles of the series. So during this process, we came across A.B. Warburg. That's why you see this image. It's an image of the Nemozin Atlas. And we were very intrigued by the very specific way in which he organized the books in his library, and also the project, the Nemozin Atlas, which was a sort of an image historical research project where the images are clustered, not necessarily by visual similarity, but by the relationships caused by an affinity for one another or a good company, principle of good company. We thought this was extremely intriguing and really interesting to somehow try to create a relationship between each title in the collection, in the main series collection. So we challenged Solange to sort her collection according to a good neighbor principle. So which book would sit well in a bookshelf next to another book on our collection? She was, of course, the right person to do this because she had deep knowledge about each book. She had a very informed opinion. She knew why she chose specific titles for a collection. She curated the collections. And it was also for us very important to bring her ideas into the design of the collection. So, and this is what she sent. She sent us an Excel sheet with titles, authors and titles placed in certain way, arranged in a certain way with certain color scheme. And it was sort of a map, a relational map of her first 30 intended titles. But she also sent, a long email explaining this map that she sent. We will read it in a second. And what we did after receiving this was we analyzed it and tried to formalize this Excel sheet into a functional diagram to try to understand these relationships better. And this is what we came up with. We'll now read you some of the explanations.
Dear Susanna and Kai, I am making progress/colors, but I have to leave now. Actually, I would need arrows now and the old-fashioned wall panels from Warburg. But here's in words some explanation. Yellow is German Romanticism, all next to each other. Rancière, Nancy, and Badiou are three of the most important contemporary philosophers, although they are not in one school. In fact, Rancière and Badiou are almost enemies. Rancière always refers to Schiller. Nancy wrote an important reference work about German Romanticism, and Badiou refers to Romanticism as one out of three possible attitudes towards art. Ligia Clark is a Brazilian artist and in a way related to Badiou, although he never wrote about her, because Badiou advocates an affirmative revolutionary attitude, which Clark brought into practice in her own way. Down from Rancière, we go to the film department. Rancière himself, Danet, Godard, who refer to each other in their texts as well. Deleuze wrote a key work about film, but it's not in my collection. I like his other work better, which is below the film section. His book on the artist Francis Bacon, and his works about literature. Blanchot wrote key texts about literature and Klossowski about art. Klossowski and Deleuze were friends, and so on.
So we were very happy with this that she sent, and we translated like this. So the book is the cover, and the cover is, the map is the cover. And the map splits on the spine because different thicknesses of publication would require the map to be distorted, and we didn't want that. And
so in this way, we sort of have a system where we can situate each title in relationship with all the other titles, right? These sort of triangles point to one specific title, and it will be different. The covers will look different for every book.
Yeah, and of course these relationships are Solange's relationships, but this makes all the sense because she is the publisher of the collection that she chose, and she makes these relationships herself. We also devised a color system that indicates 10 categories that she classified the books for us with. And these were, the first 10 categories were aesthetics, art theory, film studies, visual culture, literary theory, cultural studies, music, design theory, architecture, and performative arts. And for that, we had to custom build the color system for 10 disciplines. This was hard work. We had to look again at the first intended titles. We analyzed all the possible color combinations. We made multiple iterations, many more than the ones we're showing here, of course. And the thing that was important to find out was that there's two main themes that are very dominant in this collection, which are aesthetics and art theory. So these colors assigned to these disciplines could not be too dominant because they would prevail too much in the collection, but also these colors had to combine well with all the other disciplines because they are combining most of the rest. And of course we designed this predefined system of 10 colors, but it couldn't be a closed system because it can evolve, and we have actually already added 7 colors over the years.
Which means 7 new
disciplines
or themes.
Where the books that she's publishing somehow sit in. And you see, like this is how we keep track of all the parameters of all the published titles, all the colors that were added. So we have now 17 colors in the series. Because many titles, like I was saying before, they have 3 colors or even 4, but there's a book with 4 colors assigned. We had to try all the combinations of the first titles. And when we got to this color scheme, everyone was happy, so we settled for it. In order to situate and contextualize the titles in time, we created a system based on the year of first publication, because a book about aesthetics written in the 18th century is very different from a book about aesthetics written today. So we decided to hint at that by dividing the cover vertically in time slots, where the typography aligns at a specific or vertical position. So a title published in 2009 or later, 2009 is the year that Octavo was created, would sit all the way on the top, and an older title all the way on the bottom, and so on. This mechanism, it was important to us that it was also visible in the back cover blurb, the half title and title page, but also on the spine, because this is how the books sit on the bookshelf. You normally just see the spines of the books. And these are the final cover designs. You see an example with one discipline, that's Schiller's aesthetics, two disciplines, a reader, or the book on the right. A reader is a book in the series that is a collection of texts about a specific book that is also in the series, or an author or an idea. And they have the orientation of the triangles inverted because somehow these titles fill up the space that is left empty by another title. And although the outcome of these rules that we designed, make for very strong and variable and unique covers, the complexity of the visual grammar is hidden. And for us, this is not important, that it's readable. But a reader can find things. For example, these are the titles organized by year of publication, from right to left.
So by the time that they were published by this publishing house.
Yeah, by the publishing house. So no order, no specific order can be found. And here you can see they are sorted by the oldest book to the youngest book. So you see the typography cascading. There's a pattern. And here they are organized thematically, so you can see like clusters of colors emerging. And as you buy these books or you see these books, you notice if you're interested in a specific theme, you will notice that your books have the same colors. So over time, the system can be found. It's very easy to make these covers. You just need to follow a simple set of rules. So it's not a very interesting task. So we thought a computer should do it. We designed a method on how to a program should function, and a programmer implemented it for us with the InDesign plugin. So it's very easy. You provide basic data, and you get a print-read cover. This was good because, we made this in InDesign because the title and the black blurb are editable, so we can work on the micro typography when necessary.
Somebody's taking their sweet time here. So the script adjusts all the parameters, the coordinates, the colors. It knows about all of these things. We can tell it how thick is the book, and then we get an InDesign file with the correct Pantone colors. And you see it has like dummy text on the back that we need to, enter.
And we adjust the titles, of course,
obviously.
on the cover.
And then we can send it off to print.
So the design innovation is to reinvest the money saved by automating the design of the cover into the books. And this was our goal. We can have better binding, better paper, books for the readers.
Recently, Typotech, a type foundry in the Netherlands, asked us to make a complete specimen of their typeface library. You may know Typotech, it's a pretty big catalog. But it's more than 4,000 fonts, and they support more than 20 writing systems. So, not only Latin, Cyrillic, and Greek, but many things from Arabic to Telugu and from Armenian to Thai. And they've just made a big push in supporting 14 Indic scripts. So in a way, it is just like a catalog of products, I guess. But we also thought it could be a declaration of intents, like a statement of how things could be. For example, so Latin is only one of 20 plus writing systems that Typotech supports. So this very old-fashioned way of saying Latin and non-Latin, that's a very colonial way of looking at things, and we wanted to avoid that. They really invest in wide language support because global equity needs the ability to communicate. And Peter works with linguists and with native speakers and with indigenous communities around the world to make typefaces for these communities that really work for them, that they really want to use. So we want to show all of these writing systems in all the typefaces that support them equally, and not just have like the Latin big in the front and here's all the other stuff. And as mentioned before, right, there is an intent that we want to communicate. We want to set a tone that goes with that, like one of equity and unity. And we've always hated dummy text, and here it seemed particularly misplaced and a wasted opportunity. So we want like to have a message that is explained one word per page, because what we came up with was the idea to have a text running through the specimen that is translated to different languages, a different language on every single page, and every page just carries one word, and then everything that you see indicated here in yellow, that's just a schematic. Everything that's indicated here in yellow is sort of metadata about the actual typeface family. So it looks a little bit like this. So if you put one word on a page, that word becomes really important. And if you wanted to have a specific message, then it becomes even more difficult. And we very quickly realized, well, we can't write that. So we said, Peter, we need to hire a poet. And we did. We asked Tishani Doshi, she is a poet from Tamil Nadu in India, for help, and we gave her a very broad and like slightly naive sounding brief. We asked her to write a poem about what unites us as humans in this world, how despite our different circumstances, we all live on the same ball, none of us is inherently better than the other. And we call it a word poem. The title is Here, but it is also still a type specimen. So there is a set number, there's a set number of typefaces and a set number of pages that we needed to fill with Tishani's text. So we had to say, hey, and when you write your poem, can you do that in exactly 482 words? And then to show it in like these 23 writing systems, we needed to find out, what languages actually use these writing systems and translate each word of the poem into one of those languages to have as many languages represented in the book as possible. So for Latin, there was around 180 languoids in the database of Typotech's linguists that use Latin script, and we made sort of a cutoff at a minimum amount of speakers per language so that we can still easily find people to translate a word, because we don't speak all of those languages. And we did the same thing for all of the other writing systems. it worked a little bit differently because not all writing systems are shared among so many languages. Like some writing systems are used for only very few languages. So then, for getting all of this translated, we had to ask Typotek's 50,000 closest friends for help. And sometimes, so we asked about this on Twitter, and sometimes it was really interesting because there would actually be discussions about language and tone and semantics. But also it was just crickets, there was nothing. You know, we could get a discussion going on Twitter between 6 people about how to best translate a word into Esperanto. But if you ask for many translations into an African or Indic language, even if you know that it's spoken by 100 million people, there is nothing. And that was quite a powerful reminder about global inequality. But with some acrobatics, we in the end got everything set up. Just to quickly mention, of course, asking for all of these translations, we can't do that by hand. We don't have time for that. So friends of ours, a design studio from Glasgow, Rectangle, and we wrote a little script together that would, read the poem and read which language we had decided should be used for every word, and it found the right picture from like a placeholder page, and then tweeted that automatically as a translation request. And after a while, the book started to look a little bit more like this. Well, but in fact, that's not true. For many months, the book looked like this. We lived in this Google Sheets document that had all of the details, not only about the typefaces, but also about like the snippet of the poem that was assigned to every one of them, about who translated it. And if you look on the left side, it also has, reference to the book as a printed object, because there's like 30 or so permutations of 2 Pantone colors that we use per page in a very complicated rhythm. And then we put the book together from this spreadsheet, and of course we don't have time for this. So we asked another programmer, somebody from Israel who is really, really good with writing scripts for InDesign, to do this. So basically we had a simple template, and it would grab all of this information from the database and plug it in there. This is not an animation like the previous script that we showed, but it might as well be, because this script would just freeze the computer for 45 minutes. But eventually, ta-da, there was the book. So we had all of these different Pantone colors, also to sort of make it a little bit less monotonous when you leaf through it, to change the appearance of the pages in sort of dramatic ways. And it was a huge hassle for the printer. We're very, very grateful to them for going along with this crazy plan. And well, there's like hundreds and hundreds of pages of showing typefaces in very intriguing letter shapes. But also that is broken up by little essays about ideas about type design history, and about technical things, technical aspects of type design that are sort of strewn throughout the book. Yeah, so this was all done in COVID times, and that probably informed the whole idea a lot, and the way that we were able to set it up, reaching out to so many people all over the world. That made us feel much less isolated in our little home office. this was also a beautiful collaborative effort, and we worked on this with Rectangle, who we mentioned earlier, but we also felt very aligned with the artistic director of Weem House for Performance, called Anne Breure. So Weem is like an experimental performance house in Amsterdam. They, under Anne's leadership, they were very interested in making performances that address social and political contemporary issues through, well, performance. For example, building communities as a form of resistance and things like this. And in 2015, we started working with them, developed their identity and their website. And we started by thinking about performing and how it relates to language and text. And we thought that by announcing the program of events each month through an act of speech, we would allow a performance, so to speak, to drive the whole identity. And we started making these little video trailers. We were really influenced by J.L. Austin and his essay, How to Do Things with Words, because they are not only, these trailers are not only performed, they're also performative, meaning speech to instigate thought or action. And we see these trailers, I'll show one in a second. We see these little trailers as sort of the canonical and most natural form of Weem's communication.
Weem House for Performance, Amsterdam. Performance, Nadita, Small Nothing, by Alma Soderberg. 22 to 24 October, 8:30 p.m. Rhythm drives me, constantly, to do things. It is not a choice. Rhythm works on me. I have no power over that. Nadita means small nothing in Spanish, and it's also the title of Alma Soderberg's new solo. Her body and voice serve as the instruments that produce a small nothing. Nadita, Small Nothing, by Alma Soderberg at Weem House for Performance. www.weem.house.
So, and based on this speech act, the logo is animated whenever possible, and it maintains this cadence of speech, meaning longer word, longer duration, shorter word, shorter duration, which was also just a sneaky way to deal with a very long name in 2 languages. Typographically, the logo references speech just through this use of quote marks, and like a performer addressing room, it fills all available space. On the stationery, you can also see how we like to spell out everything from numbers to the URL. And here, and in all printed media, here is some posters, text is displayed with all the qualities of speech. So natural, line breaks, non-numerical dates, all of that. This is how it's applied on the website, and these little animations want to take over the space. There is a tendency for spectacle here. This is all automatically converted into this really small, gritty GIFs, so that it loads quickly, and also it gives this nice texture. As you may have noticed initially, because of speech, there is no numbers really on the website. All the dates are spelled out, which is terrible for a calendar, and we regret the error, and it was not a good idea. We changed that rather quickly. Oh, I want to say, so these videos, they are really nice sort of as a transition from the front page to sort of each event's page. It seems like the little snippet just keeps on playing. We change the color every month to sort of mark the passage of time. Yeah, there's not so much more to say about the website, because
somehow for us and for them, the most important thing was all the voices, with all the artists, the creators, and even the Weem staff that participated in making of these little videos, these little trailers. We somehow created a plurality of voice as a community.
Fame.
House performance.
Amsterdam. Program December.
So these trailers were made for social media, so the written word must also be present.
Just in case, because many people have like, you know, the sound off on Instagram or whatever.
The written and spoken words were synchronized, so it looks like speech even without sound. And to make this possible, we somehow needed to automate it in a way that everybody could contribute. So how did we do this? We used the subtitling software. We had a script, a recording of the script, and a small snippet of some video. The video choice, why some were made, some were found. We decided to do that because mostly we could not have recordings of the performance until the performance. So to advertise the performance, we need to have different images, different videos. And after that, just a processing script just mashes everything together, just puts everything together. First, it takes the script and the voice recording and generates a proper subtitle file, and then puts it all together with the video loop in a design template we made. So this was all fun and good, and then in 2017, there was huge budget cuts in the Netherlands, and VEEM lost a big part of their funding. So they had to rethink what they were going to do. And what they decided to do, what the artistic director decided to do was, well, if we have less money, we do less work. And she came up with the concept of the 100-day house, where they would work for 100 consecutive days, then their budget is finished, and they stop working. So we had to basically just redesign the website and the material we did. We used the same concept, same ideas, just reshuffled everything. So like the website became a numbered calendar from day 1 to day 100, where day 1 would be the opening, day 100 the closing, which was the 31st of December. So they would work for the beginning of the season only.
And that's when we noticed we needed numerals.
Yes. We also, they all had a printed poster, was also automated. They grabbed the information, loaded on the website, and just generated a very big poster that they hung it through the theater. We kept on with the little trailers.
VEEM, House for Performance, Amsterdam. 100 days to the 100-day house number 2. Staying with the trouble. A space for imagination to rethink and learn how to be truly present. Opening up to an active community. Can our dependency still be a force? 4 modes of action: performance, discourse, interaction, at work. With performances, book launches, the long nowadays, Le Spectateur, lectures, VEEM dinners, Qigong, and reading groups.
So this was the second 100-day house. In 2018, they asked us to make a series of newspapers for, with, and about the neighborhood in Amsterdam where they are in, and they were engaging with. This newspaper not only showed the program and their curatorial lines, but also their dialogue with the neighborhood. They wanted this object to be somehow special and different. And it was very interesting for us to work on this because we assumed the role of editors and we had equal stakes in the making of this object and what this object could be. And we had equal power. So we were designing with the client, not designing for the client.
Which is always the best way
to work.
And I think all of the 3 projects that we've shown now came out really good and are very meaningful to us because that's the way we were able to work.
Yeah. So we and the client had different strengths, but the same goals. And we designed this newspaper. It was, in terms of content and design, there was a program divided along 4 thematic lines. So it was not a linear, you couldn't read it in a linear way. It was in a way a very cumbersome object. And these 4 lines were social imaginary, feminism, political memory, and anthropocene. The first issue was a multi-purpose object. It was a newspaper, a program. The full program of the 100 days was printed, and it was the posters that you just saw. It was kind of a strange interaction with the object because, like I said, it was not linear. You had to take it apart to be able to see what is in that day and in that day. It was like somehow it invited a performance and a little dance with the object. It was as messy and as a participatory practice should be. But the Vein Papers was also an act of protest against the precarization of the cultural spaces in the Netherlands, where apparently it was more important to slash property taxes for a second house than to support the creation of critical thought. The idea to reduce the Vein house to a 100-day season was celebrated by the institutions tasked with subsidizing culture as a great innovation. And this did not sit well with the artistic director, so they really wanted to problematize this precarity with the help of these newspapers. Because it is not a great innovation, it was really survival. They were trying to survive, to pay for their staff and help the performance that they were used to help. So we translated this by blacking out the parts of the program that couldn't be. There should be something, but it couldn't be. So there's black space. And it culminated in the last issue. We had 3 issues of this newspaper, which is almost entirely black, and it's a manifesto for the years to come for the institution. So just to wrap it up, these newspapers were designed with very fast, messy, and intuitive processes. We basically used scissors and glue and tape and lots of photocopying. Not that there is a moral story to this, there isn't, except we just like to say that it is important to use the right tools to each job. Thank you.
Thank you, Susanna and Kai, for your presentation. I have already a few comments and questions for you. So we have a couple of questions coming up, and actually one is related to something I already wanted to ask you about. So it's not a specific question, but I've seen from many of the projects that there was always this sentence that was coming up constantly as a reminder that where is it that the repetition is for machines, not for designers. And so in my opinion, you create for many of your projects, you create a system and you create the rules, and then you let that system determines the final outcome, the aesthetics, the graphics of the final outcome of some projects. Like for instance, in the book covers that you started this presentation with. And the way I see is you use code for more mechanization, and I believe it was Kai that used the words to save time because you don't have time to do all the designs. So I would say that code follow the rules that you set previously to the design. So linking to the question that were posted that is interrelated with this, and I quote, "It would be interesting to hear from you to talk about more the computational and the procedural nature of a specific project." And then here is the world poem. So the person is asking, so it was interesting to know your opinion about the role of computing, and whether you believe in the sentence that I just said, like, do you really believe in that repetition is for machines, not for designers? And there's a follow-up. Can't machines also play a role in a more creative process? Has it ever happened to you to be surprised by machines? So these are the two questions are in relation to each other, and I would like to. You don't have to address the questions specifically, but I would like to hear from you. What's your idea of a computational and procedural nature in your work, and you can be more specific about the here world poem.
Right.
Okay. Can I start? I mean, for us and for me, talking about for myself, from my point of view, it's really, it makes things possible that wouldn't be possible otherwise. Like, for example, with the first project we chose to save money on design hours, to put money on production. So, okay, if the computer, if I come up with a system and generate the covers, instead of spending 5 hours working on that cover, I spend 1, and that money goes to production. With here, it's different. We would never be able to do this book by hand. It's just not possible. It would have so many hours that we have to spend. There's no budget. No one could pay for it. So, but if a computer does a lot of the work for us, then it's possible.
And that frees us to do the part that we like, which is the thinking about how something should function and how something should look. And I think that's maybe an answer to the question of whether we would also like the computer sort of, to do the actual design work. The answer is no. That's the part of the job that we want.
Take all the fun of my work? No, thank you.
And everything that has sort of a non-deterministic outcome, basically just a random machine, we think that's not good enough.
No.
With everything that we make, every form that we create needs to have a reason, and needs to have a purpose. Randomness is really something we hate.
Just for the sake of randomness. It can be funny sometimes, a little bit, but just for the sake of it, no. If computer surprises, yeah, sometimes there's beautiful mistakes.
Yeah.
I don't think the computer knows it's a beautiful mistake.
So you like to be, even though you let the computer do most of the hard work, but you like to be in control of a certain control of the final outcome, right? Oh.
Yes, of course.
Does our work not look like we're control freaks?
Yes, I'm just asking. double checking.
It's a good question. It's a good question.
I was just double checking. Another thing that so when you have an idea for a project, do you know beforehand that will be possible to do by computing, or do you consult informatics engineer and coders to know if your idea is possible or not? Because programming something can be also time-consuming and expensive. So, do you consult them beforehand? Do you know how code works to know if that idea is possible or not beforehand?
We know just enough about programming to be dangerous, or at least to be a very annoying client to programmers. So we often have a good idea that something is possible, even if we have no idea how. But it's just the experience, and as I said, it's usually the very sort of deterministic work that we want automated.
Okay, so I this is not like how do you say I missed the word. It's not an innocent question. That was the word I was trying to look at. Because, like in the bachelor and the master degrees in design and multimedia in Coimbra are very code based. So, and this is linked to another question that came up, which is, what is your opinion on teaching programming in the context of graphic design programs? Yeah, that's the question.
I think if it's taught as typography is taught, history, image, then yes, of course. It's
Okay.
just one more thing that is good to know. I don't think it should be the center of a design course. But I think, yeah, it's a good skill to have. It's good to know about programming.
Teaching programming is different than teaching other software, right? Like, I think teaching, I don't know, InDesign or Flash that doesn't really have space in a design course, because it's just, okay, that's just craft, like you can pick that up. Programming is different because it changes how you think about problems. Like, you try to break questions down into very, very stupid little parts, so that you can explain it to a computer, and it makes you think in more systemic ways about design, and that's something that we really enjoy doing, and that we think that's sort of the biggest benefit from learning how to program.
But just to make it clear, we never start a project thinking, okay, how are we going to automate this? Only when we are developing a project, if at some point we get to a point in the process that we see, oh, actually, this would be great if we could automate it, then we start thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because in a way, we finished with that little project, which was that newspaper, to show like this was completely done by hand. Only in the end, when we had to translate it to be printed offset, because it had to be a multiple, it needs to be reproducible, then we put it in the computer.
So
rebuilt it in the computer.
Okay. So do you consult programmers in an early stage of your idea, just to make sure that your idea is feasible, or just wondering?
Sometimes we come to a point where we think, we would love, here's a concept that we'd like to pursue, and at the same time we know, but that's going to be like too much manual labor. Nobody wants to pay for that.
Okay.
Then sometimes we consult with programmers.
Okay. So,
but this doesn't happen with every project, as Susanna said. Like, it's just one of the tools in our toolbox. Sometimes it's about like drawing very precise shapes, or arranging text in a way that evokes the right feeling. I don't know, like, it's not, our work is not so much about programming, really, or it's not about programming at all.
Yeah. And there's another question about not only, and I quote, not only random machines, but also artificial intelligence. Can do they think, or you think that could be possible someday? Artificial intelligence have impact on it? Like, I don't know if it's referring to your work or the way you work.
We've done at the school where I teach at the ECAL in Lausanne. We've done a research project about artificial intelligence and how it can be used to facilitate typeface design for typefaces that have extremely large character set, say Chinese, with 40,000 plus characters that you need to have for a really good font. That project ended in 2021, and basically everything we thought was true in 2021 is wrong today. The field is developing so quickly that I don't feel comfortable making any predictions about the future when it comes to AI. I have to admit that I'm kind of scared by it. I'm worried about what will happen to not really our profession, but to the people who consume design. And I'm not scared about our profession because in order to get one of these AI consumer products like Midjourney or ChatGPT to do something for you, a client would have to be able to formulate extremely precisely what they want. So I think we're safe.
Yes, I totally understand. So sometimes designers have to design to formulate what the client wants, the briefing.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if when you work with a programmer, is it a relation more client service provider, or do you bring them into the creative process?
Well, that depends. For example, the Vein project was done with Studio Rectangle. At the time, we were even working together, all of us. So we developed the project together. And we like to involve the programmer early on in the process, because sometimes they come up also with very good ideas of actually what we need. But it depends. I mean, with here was a little bit different. It was more like, this is what we want to do.
Please make it happen.
Please make it happen.
Okay.
What do we need to do so that you can make this happen? And basically, there was a back and forth of well, you have to organize information in this way, and then I'll do it. Okay.
But that person didn't really have any creative input.
No.
As Susanna said, with many of the things that we made together with Rectangle under the moniker Open Work, that was really a much closer relationship between design and programming, because they're also designers, but they have a much stronger connection to programming.
Yeah.
And so that could influence the creative ideas in a different way.
Okay. And do you think that most of the projects that they show are very code based, and also it's more like systems that then evolves into different forms. So do you think that would you define your work as more designing systems instead of unique designs? How do you define? No? Kai is saying
no. Kai says yes.
So it's somewhere in between the two.
like we say, it really depends on the project. Okay. Some project asks for systems and to be systematic, and there's a lot of information. So some projects are more a one-off, and we can just work in a completely different way, develop in a completely different way.
I think it's a question of semantics now
Yeah.
between us, because I would say that a book is always a system. You know, there is a regularity shared among the pages. There's strict rules for how certain kinds of content behave within the space of a book. When we design typefaces, that's of course, you know, a system where each individual constituent part needs to work with next to randomly each other part, and it still needs to make, you know, nice word shapes. So that to me feels very sort of systems driven already.
Okay, thank you. I don't know how much time do we left. Like, someone can give me a sign or something. But I was wondering as well. So you were based in The Hague, and then now you moved to Portugal. I think I would like to hear also, not specifically on your work, but on so how was moving to Portugal? So what's the difference between living and working in the Netherlands and living in Portugal? And what's the difference between from a designer's perspective? What's different work-wise? I don't know, design-wise. I don't know if I was clear with the question. So it what was the major impact that you felt, like working with clients here? I don't know if you have clients in Portugal, or what's the difference the main difference that you felt when you moved to Portugal?
We've always had clients in Portugal.
Yeah.
So and not all of our clients were in Portugal, and not all of our clients now are in Portugal. But we've always had Portuguese clients. So it's not a tremendously big change for us in that sense. I think that design plays a bigger role in society in the Netherlands, and commissioners in the Netherlands have learned to give designers more free range, to give us more input into things that they think is firmly their domain. But now we're here, and we're working on changing that here.
Okay. I don't know if, let me see. So we have another question from the viewers, and I
Hi,
quote.
viewers.
What skill or personal, so it's a question from Rafael Arias. I forgot to say the names of the others. Rafael is asking, what skill or personal trait has been proved to be the most useful in your professional careers?
Curiosity.
Yeah.
Nice. One word. And it's a big word.
Yeah, but I don't know. For me, I always think the thing I like the most about being a designer is that it's not a static thing. You're constantly learning new things. But of course, you have to want to.
Let me take that apart, because in a way, it can be a static thing. Like, you know, you just make another book, another website, another book, another website. You can see that as something very static, but you can also really get into it and like dive into you know, whatever makes any project special, and see if you can discover something new for you. We had no idea about like the world of, well, to speak for myself, I had no idea about the world of like contemporary performance practice before we started with this theater. But then I learned that, and through that we were able to make a, you know, more precise, more specific project for them.
And that's what I mean with the curiosity. I think just by engaging with the content that you're giving to work with, it's never boring. It's never boring. There's always something new to learn.
Nice.
To come across.
So would you say that the curiosity is a way of to challenging yourselves into finding new ideas and outcomes? I don't know if let me see. I think I ran out of the questions.
Oh, that's okay. The kids are gonna come home any minute.
Okay, and I think we'll need to finish it anyway. So I don't know if you like to add something else, or otherwise I'll just give it a call.
Just
Okay.
thank you for the invitation.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you for having us.
Yeah.
and thank you for accepting our invitation. So I'll give the floor to Sergio, right? Are you gonna present the session next week? Or
Pedro, really. It's Pedro.
okay,
It's yours.
sorry.
Yeah, next session will be with Miguel Carvalhais. I mean, for CMD talks, the other talks that we have. And on the 31st, we'll have Isabel Duarte. And that will be a talk, and Nono will be there as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kai.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.